took my chance and slept with a celebrity to get famous, but karma hit hard and I lost my marriage. Look before you leap, my parents always said. Not all that glitters is gold too, they said. But all I wish for right now is that I listened to them. I wish I had taken those little nuggets of wisdom they used to give me. And I wish I had thought about them before making the stupid decision that I made. Because here I am right now, in this empty house, and I miss my husband so much. I genuinely do not know how to make us get past this. I know what I did was wrong, but I was just so blindsided that I didn't even know what I was doing. You probably don't understand what I'm saying or why I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I'm just so scared at the fact that I might lose my marriage that I'm rambling. The short story is I cheated, but I'm sure you're not here for the short story. You're here for the long version, and the long version you shall get. Now, before we dive in completely, I think a little bit of backstory is needed. My name is Abigail, and I'm a 32-year-old woman. I've been married to my husband Martin for about 5 years now. Martin is 33, by the way, and we live in the United States. Martin and I met in high school, and we were the typical duo you would read about in those Wattpad books, LOL. Martin was handsome, funny, smart, popular, and captain of the swim team, while I was a nerd, a bookworm. I was always holed up in some kind of book, and I wasn't the smart kind of bookworm either. Most of the books I read were either some kind of novel or just plain old smut. I genuinely found textbooks and schoolwork boring, and so despite all the reading it seemed like I was doing, I was a below-average student. Martin was a straight-A student, so yeah, the typical high school bullshit. We didn't mix because, well, nerds and the popular kids don't hang together. Well, until I was failing badly and Martin had to tutor me for cash, of course. That sparked our whole friendship, as corny as it may sound, lol. Well, that aside, I should mention I was always a greedy kid as a child. I always wanted more, always wanted everything. My parents, of course, tried to teach me right from wrong, but you see, when you're set in your ways, you're set in your ways, and nothing really changes you. I really don't want to go down the memory hole, so I'm going to keep most of everything short. I do still remember our first date like it was yesterday, even though it's been over a decade now. Our relationship moved fast after that first date. Before we knew it, we were officially a couple. Graduation day was a bittersweet moment for us. We were excited to move on to the next chapter of our lives, but also sad to leave behind the familiar halls of high school where everything had started for us. Martin and I decided to attend the same university, and we even roomed together in a cozy apartment near campus. I'm not even going to go into those years because they were a rush of studying, late-night talks, and discovering more about ourselves and each other. Of course, like any other couple, we had the occasional arguments and disagreements that come with any relationship, but they only made us stronger. After we graduated, things were going great for us. Martin landed an awesome job right off the bat. The pay was crazy good, but it also meant he was super busy all the time. Still, he always made an effort to spend time with me. Not long after, Martin popped the question, and of course I said yes. We dove into planning our wedding, and let me tell you, Martin went all out to make it special. It was a beautiful day, filled with love and laughter. Our honeymoon was like a dream. We soaked up every moment of it, cherished the time together. Coming back home, we got another amazing surprise, a house gifted to us by Martin's parents. It was unbelievable, and honestly, we were so grateful for their generosity because that was one less problem to worry about. As time went on, Martin's career soared to new heights. He landed a bigger promotion that came with more responsibilities and, unfortunately, even busier days. The job demanded his attention round the clock, and it started chipping away at his free time and leaving us with fewer moments together. At first, we tried to make the most of the little time we had. Weekends became sacred, reserved for us to reconnect and unwind from the hectic work week. But as Martin's workload increased, even weekends seemed to slip away, and all his time was consumed by work calls, meetings, and endless emails. I understood the importance of his job and supported him wholeheartedly, but I couldn't deny the impact it had on our relationship. There was also the fact that Martin paid the bills and I did nothing, so I always felt guilty that the only reason Martin was working this hard was to provide for us. As a result of that, I couldn't really complain. Either way, back to the story, like I said, the late nights at the office, canceled plans, and missed moments started to take a toll on both of us. Martin would come home exhausted, barely able to keep his eyes open, and I would long for the days when we could simply enjoy each other's company without the shadow of work looming over us. Being a stay-at-home wife had its quiet moments, but as Martin's job got crazier, the loneliness started to seep in deeper. Our home felt emptier, and I missed the little things like sharing meals and chatting about our day. I'd find myself longing for Martin's company, especially in the evenings when the house felt too quiet. Nights became particularly tough, with the absence of his comforting presence beside me in bed. What made it even harder was the fact that I had little to no friends of my own. Martin had always been the popular one, not me. While he had a bustling social circle from work and college, I struggled to find my place outside of our relationship. I tried to keep myself busy during the day, but the loneliness lingered, a constant reminder of how much I missed him. It was hard not to feel a bit disconnected, yearning for the closeness we used to have. I understood that his job was demanding, but it didn't make the loneliness any easier to bear. I just wished for more moments together, where work didn't steal all our time and attention. Feeling the need for more social interaction and independence, I decided to get a job. It wasn't easy given my limited work experience in the competitive job market, but I landed a position after a few months of searching. At first, the job brought a sense of purpose and excitement. I enjoyed the rapport with coworkers and the feeling of contributing to something outside of our home. However, as the days went by, I realized that the job came with its own set of annoying difficulties. The long hours and demanding workload left me drained and exhausted, and it left me with little time or energy for quality moments with Martin. I found myself missing the freedom and flexibility that being a stay-at-home wife offered. After a few months of juggling work and home responsibilities, I made the difficult decision to quit my job. It wasn't an easy choice, but I realized that my happiness and well-being were more important than any job title or paycheck. Returning to being a stay-at-home wife brought back a sense of peace and contentment. I loved the freedom and peace. I could have all the time in the world to practice my hobbies without bothering about work. As I settled into the rhythm of being at home, a thought started poking at me. I began to wonder what it would be like to be a celebrity, to have all that attention and excitement. The idea of fame and recognition intrigued me more and more. I imagined walking red carpets, being interviewed, and having a huge following hanging on my every word. So I decided to try my hand at being a content creator and started a YouTube channel. It seemed like a fun way to share my interests and maybe get a taste of that fame I wondered about. I put effort into making videos, from cooking tips to daily life stuff. But as time went on, I realized that growing a successful channel takes serious dedication and a real passion for what you're doing. Balancing the demands of making videos with everything else in my life, like supporting Martin and taking care of our home, became too much. I enjoyed the creative side, but I didn't have the drive needed to keep it going. After a few tries, I had to admit that YouTube wasn't for me. It was a bit disappointing. I wanted the short way up, the instant catapult to fame, not spending years building a following. As days passed in the same old routine, I couldn't shake off the feeling of boredom and loneliness that had settled in. It was during one of those moments when Martin and I finally sat down to have a heart-to-heart chat. I poured out my feelings to him, telling him how his busy schedule had made me feel disconnected and craving for more excitement in our lives. To my surprise, Martin listened carefully and apologized sincerely, acknowledging the impact his work had on us. To make things right and add some fun to our lives, Martin promised to plan something special for the upcoming weekend. I was touched by his gesture and eagerly looked forward to the surprise he had in store. When the weekend rolled around, Martin took me out on a lovely date night, starting with dinner at our favorite spot and a leisurely stroll afterward. Just when I thought the evening couldn't get any better, Martin handed me an envelope with VIP tour tickets inside. My heart raced with excitement as I realized what it meant. I was going to see my favorite musician perform live. This was a dream come true for me, as I had always wished to attend one of his concerts but never had the chance. I'm not going to mention the name of the celebrity for the sake of privacy, and also because everything that has happened is my fault. The VIP tickets meant that I would not only get to enjoy the concert up close, but also have the chance to meet him backstage. I was over the moon. I felt like a giddy teenager again, imagining the possibility of getting a hug, a photo, or even an autograph from my idol. If I could go back in time, honestly, I would have torn those tickets and thrown them away, or even sold them or something. I just would have never gone to that concert. The weekend we had been eagerly waiting for finally arrived, and we were all set to head to the concert venue for what promised to be an unforgettable experience. However, just as we were about to leave, Martin's phone rang with an urgent work call that demanded his immediate attention. He apologized profusely, genuinely disappointed that he couldn't make it, and promised to make it up to me, like he always did, promises after promises. In his earnest attempt to make amends, Martin suggested that I take his ticket and invite someone else to join me at the concert. But truth be told, I didn't have any close friends to share such an experience with. And if I'm being honest, a small part of me felt a sense of relief that Martin wouldn't be joining me. Don't get me wrong, I loved Martin deeply. However, there were moments when I craved the freedom and independence of being on my own again. His absence for the night gave me a taste of that feeling, allowing me to pretend, just for a while, that I was single and could have a carefree, fun night without any responsibilities or expectations. I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to justify my feelings or actions. I'm simply acknowledging the mix of emotions, loneliness, relief, and a hint of excitement that I experienced at that moment. I went all out for that concert, putting on my best makeup and opting for cute jeans so I could move freely and enjoy every moment. And let me tell you guys, I looked great. I looked stunning. And the energy at the concert was incredible. And I literally found myself getting lost in the music and the excitement of the crowd. When it was time to go backstage, I was nervous beyond words. This was someone I had dreamed about meeting for such a long time, and here I was, moments away from actually meeting them. I showed my VIP pass and then got led backstage. I could legit feel myself sweating buckets from the nerves. Meeting my idol was crazy. There were others there too, and all of us were a bit quiet and in awe, as if we couldn't believe that he was right in front of us. It's funny how we build up these images of celebrities in our minds, and when we finally meet them, it's like we forget they're just human beings too, with flesh and blood. It's just absolutely crazy. But he was really nice to me, and I think his kindness helped ease my initial awkwardness. Feeling a bit bolder, I decided to ask for a hug, and to my delight, he obliged. And let me tell y'all, he smelled amazing, like this mix of excitement and charm wrapped in a captivating scent. Even though he had just been on stage performing, he smelled amazing, like a comforting embrace that you never wanted to let go of. Our hug lasted for a few precious seconds, during which I couldn't help but feel a sense of safety and warmth enveloping me. As we embraced, however, I noticed that he slipped something into my pocket. It caught me off guard, but I didn't want to open it right then and there. My nerves were already on edge, and I didn't want the others to see what he had given me. I couldn't help but wonder if they had even noticed him slipping something into my pocket in the first place. Interestingly, my request for a hug seemed to give the others a boost of confidence, as they started requesting hugs and photos too. However, I couldn't help but notice that he didn't slip anything into anyone else's pocket. It made me feel incredibly special, as if our interaction had been more than just a fleeting moment among many others. After the meet and greet concluded, we were gently led out of the VIP room, back into the bustling energy of the concert venue. As we were leaving, though, he gave me a wink, which added a playful twist to the whole experience. Once we were outside the VIP area, I couldn't hold back my curiosity any longer. I quickly found a quiet spot, and the speed with which I tore out the piece of paper he had slipped into my pocket. My hands were literally shaking while I read it. I unfolded it to find the name of a hotel, a room number, and a phone number. It was pretty clear that he wanted me to come over, but I couldn't help but wonder why. Like I literally had 1,000,001 questions swimming around in my head. I recognized the hotel. It wasn't too far from where the concert was held. And still yet, a flood of questions raced through my mind. Did he plan this in advance, or was it a spontaneous decision? And more importantly, what did he want from me? Now I know this is the point where you're literally screaming, "No, just go the fuck home, Abigail." Heck, even my mind was screaming to me to just get the fuck out of there. But if I had listened to my mind, I wouldn't be here writing this story to y'all. I literally held that piece of paper with the hotel details in my hand and started thinking. A daring thought even crossed my mind. Could I use this encounter with the celebrity for my own gain? I couldn't help but draw similarities to how Kim Kardashian had skyrocketed to fame through a literal sex tape. The idea intrigued me, to be honest. What if I became the next Kim Kardashian? What if this celebrity was the ticket to fame that fate had prepared for me? What if by going home, I would miss my one chance to be famous? It seemed like a tantalizing opportunity. The idea of stepping into the spotlight, gaining recognition, and possibly transforming my life was incredibly tempting. I mulled over the decision for what seemed like ages, weighing the potential outcomes and wrestling with my conscience. But eventually I thought, well, screw it. The excitement of this one night with the celebrity, the chance to inject some excitement into my life, was too enticing to resist. I needed a break from boring old Martin. Funny enough, or should I say crazy enough, then I received a call from Martin. He was probably calling to check in on how the concert went, but yep, I ignored it without a second thought. By this time, my brain was on autopilot, and the one thought going through my head was, well, screw it. You only live once, and you only ever get one chance to meet a literal celebrity one-on-one with any other person's interference. I headed straight to the hotel, and I even bypassed the reception like I owned the place. At that moment, it felt like fate's plan unfolding before me. It was as if I could see my future unfold before me, as the next Kim Kardashian. Or what if this celebrity and I fell in love? Then I could divorce Martin and live a famous and financially free life. It sounds callous and wicked, I know, but back that night, I didn't even know what I was doing. It was as if I wasn't the one thinking. When I reached the hotel room and knocked, he opened the door with his characteristic charm. I stepped into that room, and right then and there I knew there was no turning back. And to be honest, I do regret it, but I would lie and say I didn't enjoy that night. He showed me the city, showing me sights and experiences I had never imagined. Surprisingly, our night together didn't start instantly with sex. Instead, he took me to a rooftop party filled with literal celebrities. It was a crazy experience. I should have seized the opportunity to network, but I couldn't shake off my feelings of inferiority. Here I was, surrounded by people who shaped the entertainment industry, while I felt like a boring housewife. I literally clung to his side, because I felt so shy and awkward in the presence of such influential figures. We spent about an hour at the party, surrounded by the glitz and glamour of the entertainment world, oh wow. During this time, Martin's calls were blowing up my phone like crazy, probably out of concern. I had to mute my phone because I needed this one night for myself, to escape into a world where I could pretend to be a single woman again. I didn't disclose that I was married. When he asked if I was in a relationship, I simply said I wasn't, which technically wasn't a lie because I wasn't in a traditional relationship at that moment. I was married. Plus, I had even taken off my wedding ring before stepping out of the house. After the party, we headed out to grab some food. Over a meal, we had deep conversations about life, love, and everything in between. It was an enlightening experience hearing a celebrity speak so honestly and openly, especially since I tend to view them as untouchable people. To my surprise, he then suggested going on a bike ride, something I had always wanted to do but never got the chance because Martin thought bikes were too dangerous. It was exhilarating to finally live out that small dream of mine, thanks to this unexpected encounter with the celebrity. After returning to the hotel, we finally let ourselves indulge in intimacy. He ordered champagne, and we spent a while sipping and enjoying each other's company. I took lots of videos and pictures because, why not? And be for real, you would too if it was you. The sex was beyond words. I think it was a mixture of my awe at being intimate with someone I literally idolized and the sheer pleasure of the experience. It felt so surreal yet incredibly satisfying. I won't deny it. It was amazing. However, like any sane human being, as the morning light filtered into the room, a sense of clarity finally washed over me. And it was as if the scales had finally fallen off my eyes, and I could see the reality of the situation more clearly. I woke up the next morning to my very first shock. The celebrity was gone. I was disappointed, yet not entirely surprised. I found a note on the bedside table from him. It expressed how amazing our night was, and provided contact details for further communication on Instagram or via text. I made sure to save the number, but as I did, I finally remembered I was married, and Martin had been trying to reach me frantically. The thought of telling Martin about my night with the celebrity sent a literal wave of anxiety through me. He knew I idolized this celebrity, but he always brushed it off as a harmless crush, never imagining that I would actually meet him, let alone spend the night with him and have sex with him. If he found out, it would shatter his confidence and trust in me, possibly irreparably damaging our relationship because let's face it, what were the odds that I would meet my idol like this and spend a night with him? Impossible. That's why Martin never worried, and that's why I could never tell him. Despite my love for Martin and my desire to spend my life with him, I couldn't deny the thrill and excitement of my one-night stand with the celebrity. But revealing the truth to Martin was out of the question. I couldn't bear to hurt him like that. Why? Because to face the truth, did I love Martin? Yes, I did very much. But did I enjoy my night with the celebrity? Yes, I did very much. Did I go home and message the celebrity? Fuck yes, I did. It was a selfish desire to have my cake and eat it too. I just couldn't resist the temptation and excitement. Before heading home, I texted Martin, assuring him that I was fine and that I had just gotten blackout drunk. I even said I was relieved that nothing bad had happened to me, like getting robbed, and Martin was understandably worried. During the journey back, I couldn't shake off the regret of not having a best friend to cover for me. If I had someone close, I could have easily used them as an excuse to stay out overnight, telling Martin that I had spent the night at my friend's place or something similar. However, since I had gone to the concert alone, I had to resort to the blackout drunk excuse with Martin. I arrived home, and as expected, Martin was visibly worried about me. I reassured him that I was fine, and he seemed relieved, or at least I thought so at the time. Looking back, I should have sensed his suspicion, but I was so relieved that he believed my blackout drunk story that I didn't pay attention to his expression or any potential loopholes in my story. Martin told me that he didn't even go to work because he was so worried about me. He then sweetly made breakfast for me, and I dove in eagerly since I was really hungry after the night's events. As we sat at the table, Martin casually asked if I had any videos or pictures from the concert on my phone. In my eagerness to prove myself and alleviate any doubts he might have had, I impulsively whipped out my phone and handed it to him to check. It was only after I had given him my phone that I remembered the photos and videos of me and the celebrity in our hotel room. I know what you're thinking, stupid me, right? Yeah, I thought so too. My reflexes kicked in at this point, and I tried to grab my phone back from Martin, but his grip was surprisingly strong. I couldn't snatch it out of his hand without making myself seem even more suspicious. Panic started to set in, and I realized the potential consequences of Martin discovering those incriminating photos and videos. At that moment, I realized I had to do something before Martin saw the photos and videos on my phone. But I couldn't just grab my phone back without looking suspicious. So in a desperate move, I started crying. Tears started streaming down my face. I hoped that by showing how upset I was, Martin might not delve too deep into my phone and find out about my night with the celebrity. But I think, as you've already guessed, that didn't work. Martin didn't even seem to notice my tears. He was fixated on my phone, scrolling through it silently for what felt like ages before handing it back to me with a blank look. I started panicking, of course, and started explaining, trying to convince him that nothing serious had happened, that I had just hung out with the celebrity for a bit. But the more I tried to justify myself, the more Martin's expression turned from confusion to anger and sadness. He muttered something about how he should have seen this coming, how he should have known I would do something like that. Then, without saying another word, he left the house, saying he needed some time away from me. I've sent him multiple texts, but I don't want it to seem like I'm bothering him. I just want him to come home. It's been some hours since he left, and the house feels so empty. I don't want to call up my family or his family or even his friends to help me call and talk to him, because I will definitely get blamed for this. I know I'm at fault, but I'm willing to do whatever to make it up to him, so any advice from you guys would be welcome. Update. Hey everyone on Reddit, it's been a while since I've been active here, almost a month I think, and a lot has happened in that time. I took a step back from the app because of the challenges in my marriage and the backlash I faced here on Reddit. I received many DMs criticizing me, calling me names, and blaming me for what happened. A lot of people called me irresponsible, reckless, and even callous. People told me to brace myself for a divorce, saying they wouldn't forgive me if they were in my husband's shoes. The messages were tough to read, and I felt the weight of my actions. But amidst the negativity, there were also some constructive suggestions and solutions that I took to heart. So thank you to those who offered support and guidance. Many of you asked for an update on the situation, so here it is. So first of all, my husband and I are getting a divorce. I'm guessing a lot of you anticipated that too. Yeah, my husband didn't come home for about a day, and I kept panicking, to be honest. I was scared that he might be out there cheating on me or something, and I didn't want that. I had to call up my parents to help call and talk to him because I knew that my parents and family were the only ones that would actually have my back. If I had called up my husband's parents or his friends, they would have blamed me for everything and would have probably told him to divorce me, so I had to call my parents up. My parents were, of course, very angry at what I had done and said I was pretty stupid. My parents came over and we had a long and emotional conversation. They were understandably angry and disappointed with what I had done. They didn't hold back in expressing their feelings, telling me that I had made a grave mistake and acted recklessly. We talked about how things had escalated to this point, from my loneliness to the decision to meet the celebrity and the aftermath of hiding it from Martin. My parents emphasized the importance of honesty and trust in a relationship, pointing out that my actions had severely damaged both. Despite their anger, my parents also offered me their support during this challenging time. They assured me that they would stand by me regardless of the outcome. They also made it clear that they couldn't condone what I had done, but that they would help me reach out to my husband and see if he could be coaxed or convinced, since it was a one-time thing. My parents called Martin to talk things through, hoping for a glimmer of reconciliation. But as I'm sure you guessed, it didn't go well. Martin had apparently spent the day reflecting on everything, and his conclusion was clear. He couldn't move past what had happened. During the call, Martin didn't hold back. He expressed deep regret for buying me those concert tickets. He said he had always felt unappreciated for his efforts. He accused me of being ungrateful and of throwing away everything we had for a fleeting moment with a celebrity. His words hit very hard. He said there was no way he could forgive me for what I did and that he wanted a divorce. I felt like my world was crumbling around me. Panic started setting in, and I started crying. To make matters worse, he called me a hypocrite and dismissed my tears as crocodile tears. I was devastated. It was as if Martin had checked out of our marriage emotionally. Previously, Martin never wanted to see or hear me cry, and he would always try his best to please me and make sure I smile, but now he was calling me a hypocrite. Martin's reaction was so harsh, quick, and decisive. He didn't even think about it for long, and not only did he express his desire for a divorce, but he also wanted me out of the house by the end of the day. He made it clear that he didn't even want to see me when he returned home. The car he had bought for me was now off limits. As if that wasn't enough, Martin dropped a bombshell. He had taken it upon himself to reach out to the celebrity I had spent the night with. He sent proof of our marriage, and unsurprisingly, the celebrity replied. The response was an apology, confirming that I never mentioned my marital status during our encounter. So yeah, Martin destroyed that opportunity for me. Goodbye my dreams of becoming the next Kim Kardashian. With no other options available, I packed my belongings with the help of my parents and moved back into their cramped house. It was a temporary solution, they said, as they couldn't accommodate me for more than a few weeks. The house was already crowded with my brother, his wife, and their kids living there, and me there would make the space even tighter. Returning to such a crowded environment added to the weight of the situation. It felt like a step back in many ways, a stark reminder of how my actions had led to not just the end of my marriage, but also disrupted my living arrangements. It was in that moment I started realizing how truly fucked I was. I had to come up with something quick, or I would be homeless in a few weeks. Martin wasted no time in emptying our joint account after we separated, leaving me with absolutely nothing. And to make matters worse, he didn't keep our issues private. He went ahead and told all his friends and family about my mistake, and suddenly my phone was blowing up with calls and messages from everyone, including people I didn't even know. I had to mute my phone because I couldn't handle the constant blame and insults coming my way. What was I supposed to do? Admit to everyone that I messed up? Like, yes, indeed, I did cheat on Martin. It felt like the whole world was judging me, and it was just too much to bear. Now I'm just waiting for the divorce papers to come through. It's been a tough journey, and I'll keep you updated on how things progress. Update. Hello again, Reddit. It's been a while, and a few things have happened since my last update. I've received a lot of hate mail, which I understand I deserve, but it's been overwhelming, so I've decided this will be my last update. I'll probably delete my account after this. The divorce papers finally arrived, and they weren't in my favor. I tried to fight it, but my infidelity was a significant issue, especially in the state I live in. I realized I had lost the battle before it even started. Adding to the disappointment, I discovered that the house we lived in was never in my or Martin's name. It was still under his parents' ownership. Despite living there and considering it our home, legally, I couldn't claim any rights to it in court. It was a shocking revelation. With the evidence of my cheating and no ownership of the house, I couldn't secure alimony or any financial support. We didn't have children, so there was no child support either. It's been a tough realization, but I'll have to accept the consequences of my actions and move forward. After my parents asked me to leave their place a few weeks back, I've been couch surfing, essentially homeless. It's been a humbling and challenging experience, to say the least. I'm currently working a minimum wage job, trying to make ends meet while actively searching for a better opportunity. The job market isn't easy, especially given my situation, but I'm determined to keep pushing forward. Life isn't great right now, and it feels like everything has been turned upside down. My actions have led me here, and I have to face the consequences every day. However, amidst the difficulties, I try to hold on to hope that things might get better someday. To everyone who has listened and offered support along the way, thank you. Your encouragement means a lot during these tough times. I'm still navigating through this rough patch, but I'm taking it one day at a time, hoping for brighter days ahead. Whatever happened to forgive and forget and all that stuff? You know the whole, if you love someone, you would forgive them when they do things that hurt you. I understand that whatever he did was out of anger, but But he said he had forgiven me and had also forgotten about everything that had happened. Whatever happened to forgiving all wrongs and moving past everything? Oh, I'm sorry. Here I am rambling about the consequences of my actions when you probably don't even have the slightest clue as to what I'm talking about. Sure, I messed up, but then who doesn't? Plus, he told me that night that he had forgotten and forgiven me. He hugged me and even gave me the best night of my life, so what happened? Here I go again rambling. Now, in case I happen to do it again, which I know I definitely will, let me fill you in on everything that happened so that you would know why I can't seem to understand what is going on. My name is Jane Stevens, and I'm a 38-year-old female and mother who single-handedly dug her own grave but still can't understand why my baby daddy gets to hold the shovel. Now, before I start rambling again, let me tell you guys a bit about myself, my baby daddy, and how I designed and perfected my own downfall. I mean, I didn't think it would get this bad. It was supposed to be over. He said he realized that everyone deserved a second chance. I was born to Mr. and Mrs. Witt. I am their only biological child, although I have 3 older brothers. They were adopted, and it's important that you remember this. We lived in, and to be honest, growing up wasn't so grand, but I never had any reason to complain or anything, but I was always a bit greedy. Too greedy for my age. I always wanted more than my brothers, and being the only girl and biological one at that had its perks. My parents love all their children equally, but my mom worshipped the very ground I walked on, and the other members of the family had no problem with that. I went to the best schools, got the best clothes and toys most kids my age would only dream of. You would think I would be the most happy and grateful child ever, but I was not. I complained at the slightest of things. I always wanted whatever I saw on the TV or saw other kids my age had. My brothers tried to teach me that being content was very important, but I didn't listen to any of them. In addition to my behavior, I hardly did well in school. Now I was not a dumb kid or anything. I just didn't like working for anything, even my grades. I can't count the number of times my parents had been called to my school to discuss my grades with my teachers. They would go, have the talk, come back home and have a chat with me. And although I didn't want to work at all, I was also tired of my parents' constant nagging, so I decided to change my grades from an F to a P. This small but noticeable change was enough to get my parents off my back till I graduated high school. I didn't want to go to college, but after days of nagging, and nagging from my parents, I decided to attend community college. You might think that I decided to have a change of heart after a certain point in my life. Well, I did. A bit. I had to if I wanted to graduate from community college. After that, I got a job as a receptionist at a hotel. I mean, it wasn't the best job in the world, but it was better than being at home while my parents nagged my ears out. It was at my job that I met Brian. He had come to the hotel for a business meeting and had approached me to ask for directions to the conference room. Now, before you start to assume that we had the whole love at first sight thing, we did not. We really did not. You see, I was on my break when he walked up to me and started talking. I didn't hear him initially because I had my earphones on, but I knew he was saying something. I wasn't going to let this stuck up, too rich to be touched, suit-wearing piece of Adams mess up my mood. To be quite fair, I hadn't spoken to him yet, so I didn't really know how he was, but after an encounter I had with a man who lodged in the hotel the previous night, I quickly decided that any man who wore a suit would behave the same way. But I was wrong. I was very wrong. Brian continued to talk, but when he saw that I wasn't even looking at him, he tapped on the bell which was stationed on the counter. He tapped it the first time. I ignored it. He tapped it the second time, but I also ignored it. He then started tapping it continually like a child, and that was when I lost it. "What the heck is wrong with you? Can't you see that I am on my break?" I literally yelled at him. Thankfully, my boss had gone to run some errand because if he had heard me, I was certainly going to lose my job. Brian was stunned by my outburst and stood speechless for some seconds. Then he cleared his throat, adjusted his tie before speaking again in a calmer voice. "Listen, I don't care about you or your break. I have an important meeting I need to attend and present a proposal that could change things for me, and I can't afford to be late. Now, if you don't mind, kindly point me towards the direction of the hotel's conference room, and then you can get back to lazing about. It's not like you can understand things like struggling or working hard to get something." He ended while looking at his watch. To be honest, his words pierced me so much that without thinking, I took my half-drunk hot Starbucks and poured it all over him before getting up and leaving. I guess he reported it because I was fired the next day. I tried to explain to my family that it wasn't my fault, but my brothers wouldn't let me speak. They scolded me so much that I said something I'll always regret no matter how long it takes. I told them that I didn't know why they were so upset. It's not like I got kicked out from my family or abandoned the way their birth parents did to them. I knew I had crossed a line. The entire room fell quiet, and my brothers stared at me for some time before leaving the house. My mom actually slapped me. I actually deserved it, after they left and tried to run after them. Dad didn't say or do anything to me. He just stared at me for a while, then went after Mom. My brothers didn't return home for a whole week, and my parents were so devastated by this that they didn't leave the house. Now, it's very important that I say this. My brothers always knew that they were adopted, and it was very obvious, but given the fact that they had gotten that job for me, and the only way I could show my appreciation was to loose it within a week, and also make reference to them being abandoned was low, even for me. I felt really bad after the fourth day, and I tried calling them, but they wouldn't talk to me. When they finally came back, it was as though we had won the lottery. I apologized, and they forgave me. Plus, they found me another job. Want to know something funny? I blamed everything on Brian. Of course, then I didn't know his name, so I nicknamed him Asterisk Stuck-Up Suit Guy Asterisk. I blamed him for what happened because if he just allowed me take my break in peace or not say all those words he said, I would not have gotten fired or had any reason to lash out at my brothers. If I had my way, I would have done everything remotely possible to avoid Brian till my last breath. But the universe has a mind of its own and had other things planned for me. On a Monday morning, I was scheduled for an interview to work as a secretary at one of the biggest companies in my town. I was really excited because the pay was good, and I would have enough to move out of my parents' house by the end of the year, if I got it. When I arrived there, I was asked to wait at the lobby until my boss arrived. I waited for 20 minutes before being asked to go into a room for my interview. When I entered, I was asked to close the door behind me, and I instantly recognized the voice. I cursed under my breath before turning around to see Brian, but he was going through some files in front of him, so he hadn't seen me yet. As I moved to the seat opposite him, I thought of making a run for it before he saw my face and fake being ill. I thought of so many things I could do to avoid being here, but it was too late. He cleared his throat and looked at me with a smirk on his face. "Who do we have here?" he said while rocking his chair from one side to another. I wanted to wipe that smirk off his face so bad, but I also needed that job, so I kept a straight face and introduced myself. I actually thought he would ask me to leave his office, but he didn't. He was nice and professional all through the interview. To cut the long story short, I didn't get the job. I got a different one, but he said it was because I wasn't qualified for the one I applied for. He had hired me to be his PA. I figured that if I accepted the offer, he would make my life a living hell, and I was about to decline. But when I heard the salary, I stopped in my tracks and actually pinched myself to be sure I wasn't dreaming. Although I didn't like him, I needed the job if I was going to leave my parents' house, so I agreed. I was asked to start work the following week because Brian, stuck-up suit guy, was traveling for a family gathering and wouldn't be back till Sunday. I still can't understand why someone would say one thing and do another. I mean, it's not like I carried another man's baby or anything, so why would he do what he did? I'm sorry that I keep doing this. It's just, I never thought something like this would ever happen to me, but here I am. I would have said something, but I'm not completely innocent, so I'll probably just keep quiet and let you guys be the judge of everything. Now, people of this fine earth, I would not lie to you. Working with Brian was not what I expected. I thought he would be a horrible person. I mean, considering what happened at the hotel, I kind of expected him to milk the situation. But he wasn't. I worked with him for 3 years and I never complained about anything. Neither did I ever get my salary a day late. He was so understanding and caring that I started developing feelings for him. I've never felt this way about a person before, but I couldn't tell him. What if he laughs at me, or worse? What if he fires me? I decided to keep my mouth shut, but then the unexpected happened. I never thought I would ever be caught dead in something like this. I mean, I should have seen it coming, but still, I thought mine would end differently. Guess I was wrong. Now remember, I said that I had this massive crush on Brian but wouldn't tell him. Yeah, I shouldn't have even had in the first place because having it was the blueprint of my end. And want to know what's funny? I literally drew it myself. Now I had worked for Brian for 2 years and the crush only seemed to increase up to the point I would drift off during the day, dreaming about being in his arms and creating memories with him. I had never seen Brian with a girl. He was always with girls. Not girls, and that sort of made me jealous. Jealous that those guys get to spend the night with him while I sleep alone on my cold bed in my lonely apartment. Yes, I finally moved out. I know it sounds weird, but I didn't want to share my man with anyone. Yes, I said it, my man. I was gradually getting obsessed with him, but I didn't mind, and all I wanted was for him to be mine. One day, Brian stayed late at the office, and when I wanted to go and wish him goodnight, I noticed something. He was sobbing and drunk. He was so drunk that he was slurring his words. I couldn't let him drive home in such a state, and to be honest, I wasn't comfortable leaving him alone with an Uber driver, so I decided that I would take him back to my place. It was the closet place from the office, so that the day, he would go back to the office and get his car. While I was helping him to the car, he kept muttering some words. He kept saying things like, "Why won't she understand that I love her? I see her every day, but she barely recognized me." I didn't know what he was talking about, so I just told him that everything would be fine, and then helped him into the car. When we got to my place, I helped him into the bed, and just as I was about to leave, he held my hand and pulled me close to his face. He looked at me for some seconds before burping in my fave and then slumping on the bed. "What? You thought he was going to kiss me and we would loose out minds?" Well, I'll loose my own mind if that happened, but sadly, it did not happen. I was disappointed, but I didn't want to take advantage of him in such a state. I mean, I wanted him so badly, but I wanted him to want me as well. I slept on the sofa that night and dreamt about both of us getting busy in a private beach. Too much? Sorry, I always go way above my own imagination. The next, as you can imagine, Brian woke with a hangover and the look terror when he realized that he was in an unknown place, but he calmed down when he saw me. His first action was to look under the sheets to check for his clothes, and funny enough, they were still there. He asked me what happened and if he had done something to me or with me, to which I said no. He thanked me and left. People of this earth, if this was how our story ended, I would have been okay, I guess, but me being me. I secretly wanted more, and when the universe handed me what I want, I took it without being cautious or careful. It was at that point that I had brought the shovels that was used to dig my grave. The following week, Brian's behavior towards me suddenly changed. I mean, he was nice to me before, but it was though he was seeing me in a different light, and to be honest, I loved it. It didn't take long before he asked me out on a date. I happily accepted, and we had the best night of our lives. Well, I know I did, though. Everything was just going the way I wanted it, and I didn't need to think twice when he asked me to be the mother of his unborn kids. I was so happy that I was finally going to be the one he would always come home to, and I was going to have him all to myself. I couldn't wait for the wedding, and most especially the honeymoon phase. He gave me a wedding that would forever stay glued to my mind, and as for the wedding night, let's just say I couldn't get out of bed till noon, and he didn't mind. He made me breakfast in bed, got me my favorite snacks, and honestly spoilt me silly during our honeymoon. He really was the best husband any girl could ask for. Now remember I said it was at this point that I had bought the shovel that I used to dig my own grave? Yeah, it was... You see, after we got back from our honeymoon, things changed. Brian didn't, though. He was still sweet and all, but I just got bored. Yes, you heard me right, I got bored. You remember how I was as a child, right? Always wanting things more than I actually needed? Yeah, that's what I was doing. Now that I had Brian and had finally lived my fantasy with him, I was bored. He suddenly felt plain and just normal. I'm not saying that normal is bad or anything, but I wanted flavor. I wanted something to get me all hyped and all, but Brian was not doing anything like that. To make matters worse, he started going on business trips and staying late at the office. Oh, to be clear, I wasn't his PA anymore. I stopped working for him the day he proposed to me. It was my decision, though. I thought since I was engaged to him, I didn't need to work for him anymore. Yeah, I know. That was a dumb decision, but remember, this is the girl who didn't like working in the first place. All those behaviors and habits I had as a child was slowly coming back, and I was gladly embracing it. One day, Brian told me that he was going on a work trip and he was going to stay 3 weeks on the trip. I decided that I was going to use this opportunity to explore and have some fun. Fun. It sounds so innocent, but trust me, it's nothing like that, at least not the type I had in mind. I had no female friends to call up and hang out with, so I decided to move on to my next plan. Tinder. The day Brian left, he had gone to the airport quite early in the morning, so I wasn't able to see him off. I woke up to his usual breakfast in bed with a rose and a note by the side. You looked so peaceful sleeping that I felt that waking you up would be a sin. I'll see you in 3 weeks, babe. Love you. Ugh, I swore I almost lost my appetite. I'm sorry, but all that lovey-dovey stuff was starting to get to me. I picked up my phone and downloaded Tinder. I spent the next few hours, yes hours, scrolling left on Tinder. The profiles I kept seeing were just James, 39, had a bio that read, "If you can't handle me at my worst jet lag, you don't deserve me at my best sunset selfie. Swipe right if you're ready for an adventure of a lifetime." Or was it Steve 42? I admire a woman who gets up before I do and gets the kids ready for school. Like, what the heck is all this? What happened to all the hot men that were looking for adventures and hookups? Obviously. Just when I was about to give up, I stumbled upon the worst, best mistake of my life. Andrew, 30, light-skinned and muscular. He had no bio. Mysterious. I like that. I swiped right, and to my greatest delight, we matched. I sent him a simple hi, and then dropped my phone to go take a shower. When I came back, I saw that I had a notification from Tinder. It was Andrew. He had replied, and after about 45 minutes of flirting, we decided to meet the next day at the house. I thought that it would be safer if we stayed at my place. Just as I was about to drop my phone, I got another notification, and another, and another. My phone was blowing up, and they were all from Tinder. Before I went to bed that night, I had already fixed 3 appointments in the next 3 days and 4 the following week. I was so excited. I was going to experience bliss, something that Brian wasn't giving me any longer. Now, ladies, I will not lie. It was amazing. Honestly, some guys just know how to leave you breathless, but nothing will ever replace the feeling you get when you're with the one you love. Sorry if I'm getting all mushy. Now I had the best 3 weeks of my life, and to be honest, I didn't want it to end. I wanted Brian to call me and tell me that he had to extend his trip, but that never happened. He came home on a Saturday, and I noticed that something was off about him. I couldn't place what it was, but he just seemed out of it. I figured that he was just tired, and I was probably right, because after he ate and slept, he was back to his normal self. I kept on replaying the amazing time I had with my Tinder flings, and boy, oh boy, did I daydream about them a lot. I didn't know that the hole I was digging was almost done. My world was about to come crashing down on me. That day, I was in the restroom when Brian called out to me that he needed my phone to collect the number of the insurance company, and I told him where it was. Now, stupid me forgot to turn off my notifications, hide Tinder, and clear my chat, so as you can imagine, I got a message from one of my Tinder studs, and Brian saw them. He saw all of them. He read everything, and I mean everything, down to how I had told one of them how I wanted to be handled behind closed doors. I was still in the restroom while all this was happening, so the moment I stepped out, I saw Brian sitting down, holding my phone and looking down at it. "Did you find the number?" I asked, still clueless about what was about to unfold. "Who's Andrew?" he asked slowly. My blood froze. I knew that the secret was out. I didn't know what to say, so I just kept quiet and stood there. "Who the heck is Andrew?" he shouted, and I flinched. When I didn't answer, he threw the phone on the bed and lunged towards me, grabbing me by the throat and pinning me to the wall. I didn't even bother pleading to be let go. I accepted my fate, but it was as though he realized what he was doing and let go of me immediately and dashed out of the room. I hadn't seen that side of Brian before, and to be honest, I was scared of him. This all happened a few weeks ago, and Brian still hasn't come home. I tried calling, but he wouldn't pick up. I've left messages and tried to reach his family, but no one has heard from him. I'm still in the house. I deleted Tinder. I just want Brian back. Please. Brian, if you're reading this, please come home. I need you. We need you. Please. I just found out that I'm a few months gone, and I can swear on anything that it's yours, Brian. Please come home. Guys, if there's an update, I'll let you know. Hey guys, it's February 20th, and I am here with an update. It's not a very long one because honestly, everything happened so fast I still can't believe it happened. Brian eventually came back on the 10th of February. He said he needed time to think, and that he came to the conclusion that everyone deserves a second chance, as long as I promised not to repeat what happened. I did, and that night was magical. I had never seen that side of him, and honestly, I fell in love with him all over again after that night. The next day, everything went back to normal, and it was like there was never a time when he left. On the 13th of February, he said we should go on a Valentine's Day date to celebrate our rekindled love and also our baby. I agreed. On that day, I dressed like I had never dressed before. I actually went shopping earlier that day and also did my hair. I needed everything to be perfect. When I got to the venue, I didn't see Brian, so I called him. He said he was stuck in traffic, but that he would arrive shortly. I went ahead and ordered something to drink. I ordered a Long Island iced tea. 30 minutes later, Brian walked in looking so handsome in a suit, but he wasn't alone. He walked in with a lady who looked stunning, if I'm being honest. When he saw me, he walked over to the table, pulled out a chair for the lady, and when I leaned in to kiss him, he gave me a hug. And not just any hug, a side hug. I was confused, but I didn't want to ruin our special night, so I let it slide. I gently asked Brian what was going on, and what he said next still rings in my head. This is Tanya. She was the girl I was talking about the day I got drunk and you took me to your place. You see, Tanya and I were meant to be together, but life happened and we couldn't. Then I bumped into her on my last work trip, and one thing led to another, and we ended up spending the night together, though nothing happened. Apparently, I passed out before I could get my shirt undone. Tanya giggled as she said this while I sat transfixed to my chair. I felt so bad that I didn't know how to tell you about it when I came back, but decided I would. But what do you know? The day I decided to tell you was the day I discovered your skeleton. You brought out something that I had locked away for years, and I knew that staying with you would only make it worse, so I left and went to stay with Tanya. She would be moving in tomorrow. He finished before holding Tanya's hand and kissing it. What do you mean? I asked slowly. It means I am filing for a divorce and I don't want you anywhere near my house anymore. After he said this, he got up to leave. I held his hand, tears rolling down my cheeks. What about our baby? I asked in between tears. I don't have anything with you. Not a marriage and certainly not a baby, he said before leaving me there. So guys, currently at my parents' place. My parents won't talk to me, but my brothers have been supportive, although they were furious at first. I just signed the divorce papers. I don't know what to say anymore. It's goodbye, I guess.